the web of life.
Let me try from the first to indicate the point that we're aiming at. The point is this, that human consciousness is at the same time as being a form of awareness and sensitivity and understanding. It's also a form of ignorance.
I'll read it. You may be receiving flashbacks of who you once were, but be mindful not to attach yourself to those scenarios because your higher self wants you to level up. A rebirth happens from the dying of the old self and the alchemy of the old energy to a higher state of being. You can't do the work for someone else, which is profound, and make them conscious. Your entire life is going through a reshuffle. That second to last line is something I say to people going through my own coaching process and studying to be a coach, is a reminder for myself, but not only for other people, that you can only control your own thoughts, your own being, your own self, and we can't make people level up to where we're at. So with that, you have to focus on your own inner work and be comfortable with the uncomfortable of not others getting you, understanding you, being on board with you. There will be resistance from them when you do transform, when you are changing for the better. And that's uncomfortable for other people, but also uncomfortable for yourself. But what I find more uncomfortable is if you're choosing not to change, if you're choosing to stay the same, that's more uncomfortable because then you're denying yourself that growth and being authentic.
Do you think that is the path to view it as leveling up, or is there another way to look at that process?
And full disclaimer, I actually was going to say this, like, whatever I share is what my belief system, as we've talked about, your own personal principles. So whatever I share in this podcast with you is just where I've come from, what I've grown to learn and know about me and my journey, and to like not be critical of anybody else's, but just to my inner work. So I think a response to that would be, I guess if we're focusing too much on like the destination, which the destination it's infinite. From my perspective, it's continuous. So the destination is the journey itself, is the process of the journey itself is the destination. So in terms of up-leveling, yeah, I guess there could be a contradiction, and when you're striving, if that's like the concept is striving to up-level constantly, when really, I guess for me, it's actually the up-level is to be the better version of myself, to be the best version of Ashley, and being authentic while being present and in the moment of who I am now, and celebrating her, and celebrating the where I've come from and how far I've come and where I'm at now, and almost relaxing into that and allowing the up level to unfold the way it's meant to unfold. So I guess I'm in that space of the next level space. And I wrote earlier, one of my reflections was in that space, it's like transitional between shedding the old self and then discovering their new self, and whatever that looks like for you. So there's that transitional period or space or whatever you want to call it that can be exciting, uncomfortable. It's the unknown. It's a sense that you have where you feel so comfortable with yourself and with the decisions and the choices that you make, and not so affected by what is, the part of the passage is affected by what other people say or think or feel about your journey. And not, in a sense, I guess, not dimming your light. Stay within your light and your being. And if other people, and surrounding yourself and attracting, which you will attract other people that want to enhance that light and not dim it. You will attract the dimmers too, but there are also the people that want to enhance you. But with that beautiful light and energy, people that are attracted to you, for the attraction is the push and the pull, you get the negative and the positive. You will find that balance of what energy you want to give to those connections and those people who are vibing that light and the energy that may not be that may be the dimmers as well. You can share that energy with them within your own boundaries. Share it with them. You can give them. You can offer them love on the meta universe, like giving them the meta vibes, and just send them love and energy and positive thoughts, and that's all you can do. And then you focus on yourself, and you refocus on yourself, and refocus on those attractions and those connections with the people that are vibing you, that will nourish that vibrational energy.
Yeah, I'm a believer in you attract everything you give. If you give everything, you get everything. If you give love, you receive love. And I always questioned who we're supposed to be giving that to. But I also believe that this world that we live in is kind of a reflection of our relationships with ourselves, or with our higher self, as you said. So in many ways, we have to give that to ourselves, and then we start to see it outwardly. So when does your level up happen? Do you recognize that from external cues, or do you recognize that somewhere within, and then you watch the transformation unravel in front of you?
I think for me is, I think I mentioned earlier, it's like, it is for me, what I've discovered is this feeling of the connection I make with other people, and I can see who I'm drawn to and who's drawn to me. It's also these levels of, similar to the first podcast and for me, it's like channeling information that comes from me, and this is where my reflections come from. Usually first thing in the morning when I'm quite vivid, and vivid thoughts and ideas come to me, because I'm channeling the spiritual side. I am in touch with the spiritual side. I am comfortable with the spiritual side. And so for me is the up level of knowing, of channeling that, and then in turn is getting to know who I am. And what brings me purpose. And when I'm in touch with my purpose, then I feel like it transcends to other people. It's a ripple effect again. It's a ripple effect of, when I'm in touch with my purpose, doing things like this today is purposeful and meaningful with intention. This is what transcends my up-leveling to continue to be this version of who I want to be.
I read Lao Tzu's Tao Te Ching over this last week.
Okay.
Multiple times over. And by read, I mean listened to audiobooks. And a really good image of that made things clear was a window that is opaque. So when we're going about our daily lives trying to control everything, then that window becomes more opaque. But when we allow ourselves to be in this state of flow and let that beauty come from this alternative space and move through us without trying to curate that picture, we become more of a transparent window. So like the light can shine through. And when the light shines through us, I think that's the picture that we're all looking for. And we can tell deep down when it's clouded. And maybe that's kind of the process, right? Maybe that is leveling up. It's becoming, it's like being a windshield wiper, and it's like slowly it's becoming more clear and transparent.
You're very good at your visuals. I can visualize everything you just said. That's powerful. I love that.
Hopefully I'm not powerfully putting you in the wrong direction.
Not at all. Yeah, no, I like that. I appreciate the reflection, actually.
So we just came out of some time with the holidays, and this isn't necessarily the direction we wanted to go, but you mentioned today you feel like you're in a little bit of a funk. Where do you think that comes from?
It comes from, there's a few things. Vibrational energy is really important for me. I know that when I'm flowing and vibing, which has been that for the last 4 or 5 days of being around the friends and family that you want to be around, and you're vibing that energy, you're creating meals, you're creating connections, you're bringing people, and again, that connection, like the Wednesday night when I saw you, and then for our poker night, it's like bringing these people together again that don't really know each other, and just being a witness to the vibe and energy and how happy people were to be a part of that, and starting a new tradition. So then when it's sort of dwindling down and coming to an end, and you have to say goodbye to people, I think that can weigh on you. They can weigh on your heart, and because you just want to be around that all the time and be that energy. And so I think that would be an imbalance then. I think there was so much energy and vibe going, and then so today is just kind of that imbalance of not getting that energy and that vibe, but working through it, having to be okay with that, because that is this time of year, and appreciating the massive amount of abundance from the last 4 or 5 days has just been phenomenal. So it's like when you go to the airport, you're so excited and pick somebody up, and then when you have to bring them back, it's like you're having to say goodbye. It's part of the human process. It's what we have to do. It's what we do. But so that I would say that would be the happiness. And
it could also be all the tryptophan from eating 12 pounds of
absolutely.
turkey.
Oh yeah, and your routine is off. Your normal routine of I wasn't journaling as much, I wasn't meditating as much, and there's different forms of it. Like I was doing some, but I guess, now that I reflect on that, I wasn't doing enough for my soul when I know what I need to do every day in order to fuel my soul and to nourish myself. I was doing those things, which were amazing, but then individually, I love to do things by myself and on my own when I'm journaling, meditating, running, having my own space, which is really important, and which gives me that sense of freedom to be me, to be with me. I love sitting with myself and being even if it's quiet, just that's a form of meditation for me. I crave that. I crave that like, okay, I just want to be by myself. I want space. I want time. That helps with I don't know, what would you say, recalibrating, a recharge. So now that I'm reflecting on that openly right now, it's finding that balance when you have to go full on, and then appreciating actually being by yourself.
It's like we have those moments of routine so that we can perform as our best selves when we do have those beautiful moments of family getting together, abundance of food, and we can just call it provisions. One of the things that definitely resonated with me this morning when you reached out was I don't know if cycles was what came to me, but pace definitely came to me. Pace in a process and not trying to rush ahead. So can you speak to that a little bit? Yeah,
and part of the reflection I had sent to your sister, and then I sent it to you to read, and then even what came to me today, with the one I just read, really like that concept and perspective of holding space for your own pace, to move at your own pace, to you're gonna, again, like I believe we have to ride the waves. So you're riding the waves and they come crashing down, and then you get back on that wave again. So the concept is just, keep the momentum forward, moving on, but still sitting with whatever you need to sit with in those lows. when you do come crashing down. There's so much information there. When it's quiet, even if it's dark and cold and confusing and scary, there is that. So there's lots of information that you can learn about yourself in those darker moments, those darker days. So having that grace and compassion to move at your own pace when you're going through your journey of self-discovery. Self-discovery is for sure one of my favorite values to focus on, is continuously just rediscovering who I am and what I want. I guess it's the whole concept of with the turtle, the tortoise, and the hare, right? The concept.
100%. I was thinking about that this morning.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, synchronicity. So that's like just keeping that pace and being steady and not rushing the process. And I definitely reflected on and wrote that this morning, and reminding other people. And for me, this also is relatable to other people, and telling them, well, this person, XYZ, it's like, well, that person is not where you're at, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's okay. Allow them grace as well, and compassion for them to get to where they're going to get to when they're ready. You have to be ready. If you're not ready, what's the point? If you're forcing something and you're resisting something, that creates the tension, right? So just let it be.
Yeah. You feel the disharmony, and the disharmony only occurs when you see the world as anything other than perfect, right? So if you see yourself as anything other than perfect, you're going to rush ahead. And by rushing ahead, you don't end up finishing the race. You don't get to witness what the, path looked like, what the journey looked like. But when you see the world as perfect, every step in the process is the right step in the process. So there's no reason to sprint, right?
We are perfect the way we are right now in this moment.
Yeah. They talk about this in the state of like manifestation also, right? You have to operate from the place that you're running towards, right? So right. You feel the desire, you set the intention, but then you let go. And then when you let go, you can trust that you're in that place, you're on that path. And then from there, you're just a witness to the process, instead of this active, that opaque window, right, where you're curating everything. You have to let it shine through. And then the ride is like watching it unravel, because that's kind of how our conscious brain falls in love with our subconscious, right? Like we're seeing what it's capable of and how it puts that picture together.
And yet, and to add to that, if I may, the subconscious, it's also comes the whole self-worth thing. We have to believe that we are worthy of the manifestations that we're calling in. It's like a manifestation is this whole process, and exactly what you just said, and then putting it out there, releasing it, not giving it so much attention, and why hasn't this come to me? Where is it? How do I do this? It's just setting the intention, knowing your worth, whatever it is you're calling in, who you're calling in. And it could be anything and everything you want, whatever your dreams and your desires are. But if you don't believe that you're worth it, then you won't see yourself visualizing what you just said, is visualizing yourself already having it, already being in that moment of whatever it is you're calling in. So believing that you're worth like a deep love connection with a partner. And so that's definitely something that when I listen to manifestation things, a lot of people are calling that in. But then if you talk to them about what that looks like, who that looks like, they're not actually, their self-worth will cloud that from their subconscious. Giving them having those limiting beliefs within that subconscious, saying, I want those things, but then do I deserve it? You have to fucking feel that. You have to tell yourself, I deserve these things that I want. Yeah,
I mean, look at anybody who is quote unquote a high achiever, right? Mm-hmm. They have these very grandiose aspects of themselves, which is great. I mean, I think if that's the life you want to live, which parts of me certainly like that's attractive. Mm-hmm. But then it's important to also ask yourself the question, is that what I want? What is compelling me to go and be so ambitious and go after so much, right? Because again, when you sit and say, I'm looking at the world as if it's perfect, there has to be a release of that expectation, right? Because maybe even that is thinking small, right? Maybe being incredibly wealthy and famous is thinking incredibly small in the context of what's actually possible. So maybe like by comparing ourselves to somebody else or what's been done, that is putting a ceiling on what our actual potential is. So that's something I think about a lot. What's beyond the veil that's been cloaked over us?
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Mm-hmm. That's you are, I guess, in a sense, yeah, capping yourself, and we should never compare ourselves to anybody but who we are, our own self. Because if this person has this job and that's what you want, why do you want that job? Then you have to ask yourself, do I want that job because I was told I need to have that kind of job to make money? This is the trajectory I was told. So the why is so important, much more important than the how. So why do you want these things? Mm-hmm. Why do you want that relationship? And what does that look like actually for you? Mm-hmm. Why do I want that G-Wagon? It's one of my things I'm manifesting. But then within that...
I will race you.
Okay. You're on. You want one too? Yeah. But then you think about it in the whole context of the things that you want and desire, self-worth. Also, how are you giving that? How, in a sense, like giving back to society, or however you want to word that. How are we giving? How purposeful is this G-Wagon for me? What am I going to do with that? Well, I'm going to deliver all sorts of things to homeless people, or I'm going to drive across country to to visit family, and it's like not just to ride down the road and play holler and to look cool. It's like when we call these things in, it's holistic. Like why do I want these things? Instead of being told what we want.
And when we ask ourselves the question why, mm-hmm. and we're sure it belongs to us, right? Maybe not the G-Wagon example, but in terms of like our life path, right? And calling, I don't know, looking inward. I do believe that shift is starting to happen on the macro. So a lot of people had that groupthink mentality, but people are starting to call bullshit. Whether it's the university system that we've talked about or what have you. And people are starting to ask themselves like their whys and trust themselves enough to trust themselves enough to decide their paths for themselves.
I love that. That's scary for people.
But it shouldn't be. I mean, I don't think it will be, actually. I think once you start asking yourself enough questions, mm-hmm. then you realize you're in way more control than you gave yourself credit for, mm-hmm. by looking outwardly for some type of confirmation. So...
Mm-hmm. Which I think we're in that society that we do look for that validation, that confirmation. There's that word again. If somebody recognizes and says, "Oh, that's amazing, that's awesome," and you're like, "Oh, I must be on the right path," but doesn't mean it's right for you. Doesn't mean that path is right just because somebody validated. And who's validating you? Mm-hmm. Is it a person that you want to be validating you? We care much more about the opinions of others about ourselves than we do care about the opinion of myself.
I think deep down, everyone knows when they're in a state of disharmony, right? And that comes from those comparisons. That comes from outward validation. Mm-hmm. That comes from looking for confirmation on the things we're doing. But when we're like at one with nature, right? When we're just doing whatever we feel compelled to do and trusting that and letting it surprise us, mm-hmm. That's really the picture where we are in that harmony. I wrote something down. I kind of keep a journal in my notes, and I write in satire for nobody, no audience, but I try with all these, tools to make it savvy, right? So if I ever die, which I might not,
not yet anyway.
Go through my notes. There's going to be some
good
good stuff in there. I put in too much work. But outside of what I actually wrote, one of the words stood out to me, which is the most obvious word of all, which is universe. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wait, it's one of those things that are hiding in plain sight. Verse, like what does verse mean? Mm-hmm. It means a metrical rhythm. Uni being one metrical rhythm, right? So the word itself is literally telling everybody we are one metrical rhythm. Mm-hmm. We are one song. And it's very easy to tell when someone's out of tune, mm-hmm. when someone's out of key, when we're not, in harmony. So we're all just waves, man.
We're all just waves. We're all just energy, vibrational waves.
Or do you have any tools that you use to kind of, as checks and balances in your daily life, to make sure that what you're doing belongs to you?
Which is what we were just saying, part of my imbalance, right? I love exercise, some sort of exercise, movement of the body, and that could be whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be a lot, right? It could be a walk, it could be a run, it could be a row, it could be a jump rope for 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be a production. So some sort of movement. I love meditation. I will do either a guided meditation or just listen to vibrational music on frequencies. And there sometimes it's lying down or sitting up. And when I'm journaling, I'll listen to vibrational music as well. Or I could just be in the complete quiet. Mm-hmm. Writing is so important to me, whether it'll be a combination of on the computer, in my notes, or actual handwritten, which is this little notebook comes with me everywhere, and I have a stack of them at home. But those are pen and paper is pretty crucial for me. And the more you get to know me, and the people who will listen to this one day will chuckle at this. I reflect a lot in the mornings, which I mentioned earlier, and I will I sent that to your sister on the Thursday morning. Something in the morning will come to me, and I'm like, okay, so I just start writing, mm-hmm. and then it just formulates. And so I'll send out reflections to people, and sometimes they make sense to them, sometimes they don't. But it's for me, it's allowing the thinking process just to come to me in such a natural, organic way. And I will, at most of the time, say, I have a reflection for you. Is that okay? Like, ask permission. So it's, and not saying, well, and you know what, maybe I'm weird, but my reflections are my reflections, and maybe that's a weird thing about me that other people don't get, but I couldn't imagine myself without those, mm-hmm. without those thoughts.
So to point this out, yeah. What you're saying is, what's truest to you, mm-hmm. are those things that just come to you naturally, right? Those moments of inspiration, mm-hmm. Those, I guess, ideas that you channel from somewhere else. Mm-hmm. You trust that is the truest part of you.
I trust it's the truest part of me. Mm-hmm. It is. It's foundational. It's definitely my inner truth. I like that. And that's what I'm that's what I'm sharing, that's what we share with each other. It helps, like the readings that I do for sure, that resonate and enhance me. And then I just have my own ideas that come to me. And coffee. That's part of my routine. Lots of coffee. So yeah, how about you? Do you have certain things that keep you with your checks and balances each day?
Yeah, I mean, I also have a routine. I think unrecorded, but we've talked about this in the past. I mean, for me, I was latched on to a lot of things in the outer world, right? Ideas, ways of thinking, social groups, professional groups. I was riding a bunch of pendulums that were stealing my energy away. And it got to the point where I realized I was so far out of touch with my own, we were talking about harmony. I was the epitome of a shitty song. And once I realized that, I mean, there's a point of like death, right? Like you kill that beast off that didn't exist, that wasn't me, that didn't belong to me. And through that, I mean, it was separating myself from a lot. I mean, like, quit a job, stopped hanging out with certain people. And it was a moment where I kind of isolated myself. And I didn't know how important it was at the time. It felt more so like being lonely. But it was necessary to develop a positive relationship with myself and to see the opportunity in that isolation. And then once I realized I had control over my life, I started programming myself through that routine to be more positive. That looked very similar. I mean, sunlight, exercise, walking, eating clean, not watching bullshit content, right? And I mean, that was transformative. It's like, what do I want to be thinking in the back of my head? Do I want to be thinking in the back of my head? I used to think my mental narrator was my ally in making sense of the world. No one ever tells you can shut it off and just experience and just be. So for me, it's being very conscious about when it's on and when it's off, and allowing it to be off. Yeah.
That's awesome. It totally resonates with me. That exact wavelength mentality of it's becoming your own. And you were saying something about the beast, like you were choosing a different type of life to live, and then you said no more, and said, actually, I have the choice to live the way that I want to live, and what brings you purpose and connection and joy to yourself. Is there like something that triggered that? What kind of awareness did you have in that?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those epiphanies, right? It's hard to tell if it's a conglomeration of a bunch of events that led to it, or if it's one of those things that happens spur of the moment. I don't really care. I'm just happy to be at the conclusion that this world is whatever you want it to be, and that works for me. Believing human beings have powers works for me, and it continues to surprise me. I implore you to try it out or to think of a better one if you can, and test the world a little bit, because it'll surprise you.
I think that's actually a great response to people when they're in a loop or they're stuck in their own way, their own head, their own narrative. It's just exactly that. You implore them to show you a better way.
Yeah.
Because I agree with you. There's like, this is working for me, and I think it's doing a pretty damn good job of this mindset.
But the point of me saying that is like, don't steal mine. Realize that you can create yours.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's like, if someone's pointing at the stars, I think the issue is the finger is blocking the actual star that they're pointing at, the actual way, right? So my way is blocking people from realizing they have their own way. I can point to my way and through a story like expose the process of how I found my way, but it's not to tell other people that that's the way, right?
No, it's giving them that space to build their own ideas and thoughts. And a good question to ask is, which is similar to what you said to me this morning, is what does that look like for you? What did you ask me something about? What sort of light do you need to get out? And my perspective is my perspective, and yours is your perspective, and we can all grow from each other's perspectives. It doesn't have to. The word opinion is such a strong one, or expectations. Just be in who you are and what you believe in, and I believe those belief systems can continuously grow and change. They're cyclical to growth and change. So I love that analogy with the finger pointing out the stars actually is in the way of that person's perspective and lens to look at the star and to and reflect on it the way that it would brings meaning for them, to them.
Do you have an image of a moment or a day that was the most perfect day ever?
Do you have one on your mind?
I asked you, but yes.
I know you asked me, and I'm going to answer you. But I was wondering if you'd like to answer first, so I can stall.
Do you want me to answer so you can stall?
Oh, yeah. No, I want you to answer. Well, I'm wondering why that just came up for you to ask me that.
It came up for me because we need a direction to, like, I don't know. We were talking about manifestation, right? Like being our best self, being in the right place, mentally, to allow the world to come to you, right? Instead of leveling up, it's being upstairs and watching the elevator go, right? So I often think about the best versions of myself, and when I've felt the most natural, effortless. And then I have an image of a day like that. But on top of that, the entire day was surrounded by proof about how the world came to me and met me there. So before getting into my story, I mean, does that bring up any moments of yours?
What you're saying is if you're talking about that self and that self journey and discovery, is what you just said is spot on for sure. I think that's actually, for me, that would be an epiphany, the way your description was. What came up for me was when Shay was born. And
the day of
that moment of that day of my first, and just by you describing that, I just sort of thought about myself laying there holding him and his little perfection, and that moment of like, wow, this is, talk about rebirth. Like it's a massive shift in your life. This being that you want to protect, that you created, and you know, he's mine. He's mine essentially in that moment of like, I'm his mom. And so if I was thinking about like a particular moment, that's just what came for me when he was born, and how powerful that connection was from the beginning. But then, do you have a moment back from the deviation that you, aside from your description, which is perfect?
I don't know. I'll see where this goes. Okay. But you kind of need context. So my sister, a couple of years ago, had just moved to New York City. It was July 4th weekend. And to hang out with her and to celebrate her move, her and her roommate, who were best friends in high school, I happened to have a friend who was a DJ, and he was DJing in New York City at Pier 40 or something like that. And he had a boat cruise day party set situation. So he invited me and them to come over. And I was dating this girl at the time who also lived in New York. And we were in love at the time, me and this girl, like absolutely in love. Completely just, we were a crazy bunch to be around. And so it was the four of us on the boat. My buddy Evan Wilder was DJing. He's great. He's a great dude. We met in an interesting way. Every time we've hung out has been interesting. Just one of those cool characters from the novel of life. And I was a college kid, so I was a little bit more of a degenerate, but I remember we were just drinking like unlimited amount of Long Island iced teas because we don't know how to order, but we want to get fucked up. And after putting down like God knows how many, I told people that I was going to jump off and do a flip. And I like stripped down, was about to jump in, and the Jackie was like, fuck no, don't do it. So I didn't, luckily. But in that process, I lost my phone. And I didn't realize that until the next day. So I wake up. It was a great day, by the way. She saw the sunset in New York. It was a lot of fun. We all had a good time. Except waking up the next morning, I realized I didn't have my phone. So Jack and I looked at each other and we were like, what are we going to do? Like, it's in the middle of New York City. Like, you're never going to find your phone.
Is she going to listen to this?
The whole day was centered around one mission, right? One mission, which was find the phone. But there was so much play involved with the entire process. So, I mean, we didn't even think about it. First things first, she showed me around her entire neighborhood in Long Island. We went, from rooftop to dive, back and forth. Lots of laughter. Then we went down to Midtown Manhattan. I remember just like joking with everybody. I had my car because I had my car for some reason in New York City, and we would like stop and like strangers would interact with us, come and talk to us, and we were like playing with the world, right? So many like little things that wouldn't make sense in conversation clicked and happened, and we were without thought. It was just natural for us to be playing with the world. Go into a CVS in modern day and ask for a GPS because I'm like, how am I going to get home? And we just sit there dying of laughter, right? At the end of the day, certain like pieces of the puzzle, this like mystery clicked, and I ended up getting my phone back. And it was this huge journey, huge process. And then when I'm driving home, again, 4th of July weekend, I'm sad because I'm leaving her. I'm driving back to my college, and right as I'm crossing the bridge, just like fireworks show. It was just such a picturesque day, right? And the reason I think about that is because that day could potentially be a microcosm for life. But then we have this entire lifeline, right, as the macrocosm. So we can say, this is what my intention is right now for life. And from that, we can just dance and play and know that we're going to get home. We're gonna find our phone, right? We're gonna find our phone. And then the relationship comes with not being surprised when the world comes to meet you, but to play with it and to take it for a walk. So I use that a lot. I mean, this past week I used that, and it does come to play with you. It comes for the walk. So does that give you any other ideas or moments in life?
Well, so part of what you're saying, just to sort of add to that, is you set the intention to find the phone, and that could be the destination, the outcome, whatever term you want to use. I would also say that you were playing with the world. You were enjoying the process of getting from one to the other, to the next, and going with the flow. So you surrendered, and you gave surrendered to whatever is to come. And if we were to do that every day, that is essentially, I guess, a perfect day. Each day when you surrender and not focus on what didn't get done or what needs to get done or what didn't happen for you or whatever. It's everything does happen for you. So surrendering to the process, the journey of whatever's meant to unfold in the day. It's you can have a framework, I guess. You can have a foundation. You can have this is what I would like to do today. And I felt like even the last 4 or 5 days with people here was we sort of had a framework, and then you just have to be flexible within that. Like whoever shows up to the poker, whoever shows up to Thanksgiving, and now there's 2 extra people coming. We'll just add 2 more chairs. It is going with the flow of like, again, like these things are coming for me. These are opportunities. Allow them, and you never know. It's just so exciting to watch and be a witness of what it will unfold because of what you allowed in, rather than being resistant to. Well, that's not part of the plan today. Well, why isn't it? Allow it to be part of the plan. When you mentioned that, one of the last weekends we spent in Hong Kong was sort of different farewell parties or see you soon parties, whatever you want to call them. And the last day it ended up being like a Typhoon 8, which is just, they call T8s there, and it's just, it's heavy amounts of rain, crazy winds, and I was meant to have, the people meet. It was like the Saturday before Saturday, and we were leaving like the next morning. It was supposed to be a beach party. So we're all like in our bathing suits, and and then like the day before, we're all really, really fun, connections we were having with people before we left, some with friends, some with family. And so this particular moment, I still look at photos and I love it. And I did something kind of crazy. Everyone just brought like whatever alcohol they had. We just met at this temple in an area called Repulse Bay. I was like, okay, everyone meet at the temple because at least it's somewhat covered, and in case it rains. I mean, the rain comes in sideways. Like, we were soaking wet, all of us, and we didn't give a fuck. We just were like, I'm like, guys, the weather's out of my control. If I'm leaving Hong Kong tomorrow morning, I'm going out on a T8. And we did. I was like, this is the way to go out. And so that's part of it, being in the flow of whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And people they just showed up anyway. They showed up, they brought their bottles of wine and champagne, and we played loud music. At one point, there was like a tour bus of people that came, it's a popular spot for people to come and take photos on the water. And they were just kind of like, what is going on here? And we just did it. And the water was coming up pretty high, and I ran out into the water. And my friend Paul, who'll listen to this one day, I did it for him, knowing he's always trying to get me to go swimming in the water when it's really cold, because it's really good for you and invigorating. And that's what he does wherever he goes. And he's a pilot. Whenever he travels the world, he that's one of the things he does. So I was like, all right, Palm Day is for you. He wasn't able to be at the party, but I have pictures of me. And I just ran out into the water like a crazy person. Came out all scraped up, but loved it. Like, I just love whatever it was. I love being surrounded by people that are there for each other. They're there for me. It was like so much abundance of love and connection. And we realized when it's T8, things start shutting down. So I'm like, well, I'm sure we could find some food somewhere. Like, we're starving at this point. And my friend Nick, who was there, is like, I think there's a restaurant near him. He was like, I think it's open. I'll call them right now. And he called them right away. Like, I just love it. Everyone just pulled together. Mm-hmm. And worked in unison of like, we're going to make sure that now she's going out in style. And they were open, and we went there. We were singing. We played our own music. And I was like, well, I'm not going to be here tomorrow. They will never see me again. I'm playing my own music. We were a little bit degenerates ourselves as adults. But we would just walk through this plaza singing, playing really loud music, playing Frank Sinatra, New York, New York. That is a great song to go out to. So that was like that perfect moment, one of my perfect moments.
Did you guys get food?
We got food.
It was open.
Oh, yeah.
That's exactly what I was looking for. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think the metaphor of dancing in the rain is the most perfect way to talk about life, because shit will inevitably be thrown your way. And if you can transmute that into something positive, or into play, or into something fun, then nothing can touch you. Truly.
That is perfect.
Is there something specific within pace and trusting rhythm that you would like to highlight?
I like that. Yes, trust. As you said, trusting that pace of allowing things to unfold the way they should unfold at the pace that they should be unfolding, and bringing in the word patience with that, and having that patience with yourself, having patience with other people within your boundaries. And I did write a reflection with that. I wrote that we may not recognize who we are during these transformational times, these transformational periods. So when we do go through these rebirths of transition, of change, finding that balance and that harmony, it's a great word. Going through the pace that works for you is crucial. Not to force it, as well as not to resist it. And during those periods of the unknown, of being uncomfortable, as I said earlier, it does give you information about what you want. And there is that sense of like, I don't really know who I am right now. Then this is a self-discovery of getting to know who you are in that space. And it's transitional. It's a transitional space in between the old self, maybe not diving quite into the new self because you're not sure, but you knowing that old self needs to be shed. And I did do a little bit of quick little research on the process of a butterfly is transition.
Metamorphosis.
it is a transitional, and they all have their ways of, versus the moth versus the butterfly, and some say it's painful for them, some scientists say it isn't, but apparently within the cocoon, they go through their metamorphosis within that, the molding of the old skin, and then they transform into the next stage, and then they morph that skin, and then transfer into the next phase. But at one point, it's so dark in there, they don't know they're becoming a beautiful butterfly, right? So when you're in that uncomfortable, you don't even know what the potential is. Just know that there is the potential of this beauty, this beautiful being, and that part of the other side of your world, or other side of your process and your journey of what is to come is quite exciting. And it's okay to have fear and be scared, but look at it as like with a smile. Say it with a smile. Say it with confidence, being like, I'm going to be uncomfortable. Like, great, let's do this. Yeah, the butterfly doesn't know what they're becoming. They're going through the process, though, of being dark, of falling apart, of like becoming gooey inside. So I think in many ways, we can look to that as human beings going through our own transformational periods, and appreciating them for what they are.
I think that's a perfect example. And if you compare your cocoon to other people's cocoons, you're missing the point.
You're missing the point. And I would imagine that the wings of a butterfly are like a snowflake.
No two the same.
No two the same. I've also read the butterfly doesn't even see the beauty in their wings. It's like they can only see what's in front of them.
What did they metamorphose from again? A worm?
A caterpillar.
A caterpillar, yeah. I don't know why that escaped me at the moment. I was like, hold on, where did that go? It took me a second, but...
It took me a second too when you said worm, I was laughing. Yeah. Well, they're...
I had to go back to biology for a second. Yeah. But you can't, like, a caterpillar could never see itself as that higher flying thing.
That's right.
A caterpillar can't even imagine being a butterfly.
They just know what's within them.
Yeah.
During those metamorphosis stage.
Yeah. Imagine the disharmony you feel as a almost butterfly. You're like, you're supposed to be flying.
That's right. You're supposed to be flying.
You're supposed to be flying right now.
And you will.
And it's going to be painful.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be isolated.
Isolating. Lonely and dark.
But once that's done, you become a monarch.
Would you like to add anything to the pace and the patience of...
I mean, again, seeing the world as perfect, pace doesn't even matter. Patience is also something I don't like, because that means I'm trying to escape. I don't even think about patience or being patient.
Why is it escaping for you?
Because that means something's to come. Last week I was going for a walk. It was a Wednesday, and I was like, I have nothing to look forward to today. And then I was saying, I have nothing going on today. I was like, no, I'm going to take the world for a walk, and I'm going to go and I'm going to uncover something magical. So I, of course, threw in an audiobook, which was Out of This World, Thinking Fourth Dimensionally by Neville Goddard. As I'm listening to this, I'm walking the same walk I do every single day. Like this girl taking a picture of something on the wall. And I look at it again, and it's a quote from Soren Kierkegaard.
I don't know if I know that. It's
just a philosopher.
Okay.
But again, I've never noticed that. And it says, time is experienced moving forward, but understood looking backward. And then I had this epiphany that came to me. And it was, what is the one thing we experience in only one way, very linearly, which is time. And everyone always says the fourth dimension is time, but I actually think it's the first, and it's the beginning of all things. And so I ran home, had this like very lucid moment like train of thought. I started literally, like, you look through my notebook, just like a schizophrenic mania, circling things, highlighting them, like about time, an astrophysicist moment, which was potentially complete delirium, but also potentially like the onset of a thought that matters. And again, the point that I'm making is I made it fun. I made it a journey. I made it an experience, and I was in it, and it felt bigger than me, and it felt like I was playing with the world. So, I mean, why be patient when you can create that at any time?
The perspective that you have is for sure something I haven't always had. I have it now as well. Like, what are we going to do to make it the best day for me, or in the moment, or just like it's okay to have those moments of being like, oh, waking up feeling that way and like I don't have anything going for me moment. But you did that. I mean, it's such a gift. It's such a shift to shift your mind and be like, I can shift my mind. I have the power to shift my mind, which is part of like the wisdom coaching for kids. And you were almost I don't know. Sometimes I like to use the word hovering, where you're almost, it's not quite an out of body experience, but it is, where you are playing with the universe, like the world, universe, whatever you want to call it. It's like that's your playmate for the day. Like, the world's my playmate. Let's go out and have some fun and see where it takes us. Right. That's kind of what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Again, I might have said this, but if you treat the world like a scavenger hunt, you'll find stuff. You're drinking right now a bottle of water, and it says the mountain valley. Think about a mountain. A mountain is a peak. A valley is a trough. We were talking about how everything is a wavelength. You can look for signs everywhere, and you'll find them. Right now I'm drinking a Kavita. Yeah. Kavita is a Sanskrit for peacemaker, right? So we're reconciling the peaks and the troughs of the universe, right? So like, definitely. If you have fun with things, you can take it for a walk. You take your world for a walk. But it comes from curiosity and being open and looking for it and staying on the positive side, right? Just like keep staying on the mountains, staying on the peaks. And
if you do go to a valley, then that's okay too. You can come out of it easier each 100%, time 100%. With the positive mindset and playing with the world. I guess when I use the word patience, for me, it's having that sense of to actually just be okay with what it is, whatever it is in that moment. Not like someone saying, oh, just be patient, oh, just relax. That when people say those kinds of things, I'm like, what is it? Don't say those things. That's not, nobody wants to hear that. Don't tell me to relax.
It's like, oh, I didn't think about that, thank you.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, exactly. Like, I am fucking relaxed. But it's more like, breathe into it. Just literally be in that space of whatever it is.
Be in that space of being beyond it, right? So it's like, be patient, to me, is like adding fuel to the fire. Being patient is giving that more life of the destination not having arrived.
That's right.
Right? It's giving putting things out of touch. It's wanting, it's desire.
Yes.
So
I'm going to go look for that quote. And it's amazing that you can do the same walk all the time, the same trail. Like I do the Crescent Trail all the time. And maybe sometimes I have to stop because I drop my phone or whatever. I'm like, and then you look up, you're like, oh, I never noticed that before. So being more aware of what's around us.
Yeah, and it comes to you when it needs to.
It comes to you when it needs to. Yeah. And the more aware you are is and being aware can still be a place of just being, as you said, and then beyond. Just doesn't have to be aware where I'm like, okay, I'm going to go out looking for something, but just be aware of the moment that there is a presence, that you are present to what's to come, to what will come. That's a cool story, and I appreciate you sharing that.
Thanks. Soren Kierkegaard.
I feel like I've heard when I do the Daily Stoics and I read them, I feel like there is a Soren, but I don't remember the last name that you just mentioned.
Very likely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very likely he's in the same classroom as a lot of those folks. I love the Daily Stoic as well. And again, when you read a daily message, you can use that, right? You can say, hey, I'm gonna take this one and roll with it for the day and see where it takes me.
Oh yeah, and that's for sure when I read something, reflections come to me when I read something like that.
Are we dwindling away? Withering
Oh yeah,
away
we're good.
on our
I'm like, I
podcast here?
forgot we've been talking. Okay.
Cool.
Should we say anything else? Should we do that? Should
What
I
does
stop?
vuori mean?
It's that surf shop over here on.
It's not a surf shop.
It's a.
It's
not-
like a
it's
Lululemon.
Yeah, but I think it's more edgier than that. Are you making fun of me?
No, it's a nice brand.
I know it is.
Vu-
Actually, the outfit I'm wearing too.
Vuori. Meaning.
It's not. It says surf, sun, lifestyle, something like that.
Vuori.
What does Rory mean?
What does it mean? You're wearing a hat. It says Vuori. This is our last thing to search, right?
Wait.
Vuori.
Okay.
Now that we look up this brand that you're wearing on your
Yeah.
head, and we're looking at what you're drinking, in your Vuori hat, there's also two sunsets taking place at once, right?
Or it could be a sunrise.
A sunrise and a sunset. All I know, it's a mirror image, right?
Mm-hmm.
As above, so below, right? That's what we're looking at. Well, what is a mountain and a valley? It's as above, so below. It's the same. The meaning of Vuori is also mountain.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
You were just like floored by that when you looked it up. Did you know it meant that?
I did not know it meant that.
You learned something new today. As above and below. That
Because
is
of
another synchronicity.
reflecting founder Joe Kudla's passion for mountain climbing.
That is so powerful.
Well, there you go. Until
love
next
it.
week.
Until next week.
Cool.